All right, folks, picture this. Standing tall at 5'10", 190 pounds, the starting point guard for the New York Knicks. Give it up for Steven. How do you say your last name? Because I didn't ask before we started.
Kolodny. I was thinking about spelling it out for you phonetically, but all good.
All right, not exactly running the break at Madison Square Garden, but definitely a baller in his own right. Steven Kolodny, did I say that right?
Kolodny.
Kolodny, my fault, is a born and raised New Yorker, a finance professional by trade, but an entrepreneur at heart. He's the founder of NEIGHBS, a hat brand that started as a way to bring New Yorkers together by repping their neighborhood. But like any great side hustle with soul, it evolved. NEIGHBS has become a platform to spread Jewish pride, starting with something simple but powerful, the Tel Aviv hat, as I'm wearing right now. It's bold, meaningful, and it's just the beginning. Today on Jewish Baseball More Than a Game, where you talk about creativity, Jewish identity, building something bigger than yourself, and how a hat can carry a whole lot more than just style. Steven, thank you so much for coming on. How you doing today?
It's an honor to be on here. I was listening to your earlier podcast this morning, and it got me fucking pumped up.
That's the goal.
F10, and you had a unbelievable intro, and then I don't know why I had to write this down, but I loved it. You were talking about just guys being dudes, and that resonated with me. I love that.
100%. If guys aren't dudes, then the whole world is just over.
Yep.
Steve, I really, first of all, I've already, voiced this to you. I love the hats. I'm constantly wearing it. There's not a time I'm not wearing it aside from right now because I'm at the office.
All good.
Can you kind of give us a background story as to how you started all this, why you started all this?
Yeah. So you know what? I was walking around LA one day, and I saw like this really cool hat brand, and just showcasing like all of the neighborhoods in LA. And I did some research, and I was like, everyone's so proud of where they're from. Nobody's doing this in New York that I knew of. I was like, let me put some research in, see if I could do it. And started out as a passion project. It's a hobby currently. But I love doing it. I put so much pride in me and a smile on my face when I see people walking around in the Tel Aviv hat or another hat, and it's amazing.
Do you ever count how many hats you see that are yours if you see them in a day? Like, oh, I saw 10 today, maybe 5 yesterday.
Well, because they're so small, anytime somebody sees it, I'll get a text from somebody, or like somebody will send me a DM like, no, I saw your hat today. So like at the last Knicks game, I got like 4 different texts like, saw someone in the Mecca hat. And then funny enough, there was like a LA brand, a frozen fruit brand, who was doing like man on the street like interviews. And the dude doing the interview was in the Tel Aviv hat, and I was like, that's amazing. I had no idea who the guy was. The best. I reposted the video.
That's awesome. Can you kind of tell us about your Jewish background and how that kind of ties into your life right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Reformed. I was never really that religious. I went to temple growing up, high holidays. I went to Hebrew school, got bar mitzvahed. As a younger person, I always knew it was important, but I never felt this level of passionate about it. As I grew up, I felt more and more Jewish pride. And then when I stepped foot in Israel for the first time in 2013, it just felt like homecoming. Like when you get the chills, and it's like, I always felt that when I was going like back to Syracuse where I went for undergrad, like stepping on the campus, it's like I'm home. That's how I felt stepping down in Israel. And then ever since 10/7, that really affected me, and it's really become a part of me and my identity. To spread Jewish pride. And I want to see all Jews out there just be so proud of who we are, because, we're the chosen people. We're a unique culture, and I'm very proud about who we are as a people.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so cool what you're doing. And I'm looking at the Instagram, seeing some of the people that are wearing the hats, really amazing figures like, Rappaport. Can you kind of go into detail as to how you connect with, these very prominent Jewish figures and how you're able to, get them all for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's almost been like a cold calling approach. Like I'm a sales guy. I just reach out to everybody, hope it sticks. I've been getting better and better at it. I was connected with Rappaport through someone I knew who I was doing a Shabbat with. We donated a bunch of hats to a Shabbat, which is actually where the Tel Aviv hat idea came from. The person who was running the Shabbat knew Rappaport, and so I just started tagging him and stuff, probably annoying the crap out of him. But eventually he was like, okay, dude, I'll take a hat. And I hand delivered Michael a hat on the Upper East Side. And he's a supporter now.
That's
That's so cool.
unbelievable. I mean, Miles and I experienced it too, but I feel like, you experienced as well, trying to see what sticks. But I will say one thing about, Jewish people in general is that they will support you and they will offer up anything and usually take it nicely. Have you ever had someone who was like, no, I will not wear your hat. I will not do this,
I say, great. I don't want to be working with you anyway because, we stand strong for what we believe in. We're unapologetically ourselves. It's not only in my blood as a Jewish person, but as a New Yorker too.
Yeah. Could not agree with you more. I think it's sad that it has become so politicized here in the United States. That's kind of our mission too, is to be like, all right, here's what you don't know. Here's what's going on over there. Open up your ears and listen.
Yeah.
Because there's so much misinformation spread about the topic. And like you said, I don't want to work with you anyway. I think you put that perfectly.
Yeah. So Mr. Rappaport and I do have some exchanges here and there. And he just posted on one of his stories a clip of Theo Vaughn, talking about. Theo Vaughn said, what's happening in Gaza is the worst thing to have ever happened. And so I asked Michael, I was like, I need your opinion on this. Is there something that we should be doing about this? Or is the best thing that we could do to just keep on living and thriving and just being so proud of who we are? And I think he's going to go with the latter. Because we can't educate everybody. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, agreed. I also think that at some point, because I've seen these videos of, people yelling at Jewish people for the Star of David. And, unfortunately, I do think at some point we're going to need to fight back a little bit because, we don't want history to repeat itself. So, unfortunately, I think that is the only way. Fight back, whether that be, talking, raising your voice, but not in a threatening way, whether it be educating them through maybe not talking directly to them, but like some of these athletes do. It's like Bregman, I forgot, and Julian Edelman too, taking guys to the Holocaust Museum, taking guys to places like that where they can actually learn instead of, I think Dave Portnoy just did it with
Yep.
everyone at that bar that happened, which was just.
Well, he offered it. He offered it.
Probably the kid probably didn't accept. Not a shocker here, but I think that is something that could be looked at as a really positive. Is offer it to these people.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the kids ended up turning around and saying, "No, we're not interested." So you do what you can, but I think you're right. That's the Jewish way, is to inform everyone. We speak, we're proud, and we're loud, and that's all we could keep doing.
I love hearing. I just love talking to like-minded people, just hearing how proud we are of who we are. In terms of specifically with with the hats or just with the merch in general, where are you trying to build that, the next 5-10 years? Are you trying to, have things more geared towards Israel? How's that?
Me and my business partner laugh about this. So we started out as like a New York brand, It's raining, so I just moved into the underhang. We started out as a New York brand, and then we started doing the Tel Aviv hat. And funny enough, the Tel Aviv hat is our best seller. So we essentially nicknamed ourselves the Tel Aviv Hat Company. So us on the inside, we're no longer NEIGHBS. We kind of just say TAHC. So I don't know, right now, we don't take it all that seriously. We're having a lot of fun with it. Who knows if we're around in 5 years, but we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. I know that you guys know Asaf. He was on the pod a couple weeks ago. Asaf and I and a couple other Jewish community members are working on a new T-shirt. 100% of the proceeds are going to go to a Jewish organization that we choose, and so that's being worked on right now, soon to come.
Very nice. I can't wait to see the shirt. Do you guys have any designs narrowed down, or are you still kind of going through?
So I'm working actually with a Jewish tattoo artist, and I told him you have full artistic freedom, and he sent me some rough drafts. I'll send it to you guys offline.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to see it because that's going to be sick.
Yeah, you bet. I'm looking forward to that.
Other than, Michael Rappaport and all the, what is your favorite encounter with, it could be an influencer or not influencer, about the hat?
About the hat.
Like a story about it, how they came in touch with you and stuff like that.
So if you check the website, I think there's a picture of me and Spike Lee up there. But I was like, Spike, I started this New York-based hat company. I'm doing Brooklyn hats, Dumbo hats. He's like, that's sick, dude. He's like, I want Knicks hats. He was like, "That's sick, dude. I want the Knicks hat. And could you do a Fort Greene one?" So we did a custom 1-of-1 Fort Greene hat for Spike, and then I hand delivered it to him in his office in Fort Greene. So that was pretty cool. Another one is this fitness guy that I've looked up to for a long time, Brian Mazza, ally to the Jewish community. I sent him a hat, and he's, big person in, like, I guess, social media. He was on a FaceTime with Scooter Braun, and he was wearing the Tel Aviv hat. And Scooter Braun was like, "Dude, I need that hat right away." So Brian hits me up and he says, "Dude, Scooter wants your hat. Check your order. It's probably coming in." Like 10 minutes later, I see Scooter Braun orders a hat.
That's so cool. That's got to be so surreal.
Yeah, that was a cool one, especially a guy like Scooter who, started the Nova Foundation, which is so meaningful. If you haven't been, go check it out. It's in Toronto now. Do what you can to go see it.
Absolutely. Another one of my questions, kind of alluding to what you said earlier in terms of, the new merch coming out and the proceeds going to well, I'm wondering, what is some of the work you've done within the Jewish community to this point, or things that you continue to do, or any mitzvahs that my mom always tells me, Miles, do a mitzvah a day. And so I always try to do a mitzvah a day, or two or three. What are some of the things that you like to do?
I think you could call this a mitzvah, but I love to wrap tefillin. I was walking around Brooklyn and met a rabbi, and now we have become good friends. We wrap tefillin every Friday. So I'd like to say, at least on Fridays, I'm doing a mitzvah. Other than that, I'm partaking in all of the Jewish events that I can, whether that be at Shabbats or, raising awareness for attendance at Shabbats. I feel like I've really plugged into the Jewish community, since starting NEIGHBS. So I'm vocal and I try to do as much as I can.
Absolutely. As the Miles, your mom's right. I heard a mitzvah a day does keep the doctor away.
Yeah.
But, for, whether it's the shirt or the hat, Steven, you mentioned that tense really kind of ignited you. Was it more so, what had happened in Israel and the response to it? Because, I think the anti-Semitism has always been around,
right?
But I think that had really just exploded it to a new level that we haven't even seen before. So, when you said that 10-7 really changed your perspective, was that kind of when you got more involved in the Jewish community as well?
It's definitely when I got more involved, no question. What made me, what provoked the emotional response? Was it 10-7 itself, or maybe the reaction thereafter? 10-7, I was just scared, scared for Israel, scared for the people. And then, every reaction here in the United States, I think, has been and the world has been so nonsensical that it's been incredibly frustrating. So the past administration, 10-7 happens and they go, we're starting a, board to combat Islamophobia. And I was like, is that the issue here? Like a lot of things didn't make sense to me. And, obviously all the campus protests and what have you. Like we were saying before, we need serious education, but unfortunately, there's a lot of hatred out there.
100%.
Have you experienced any sort of anti-Semitism, any sort of hate with everything that you do over the past few years, or in general?
Fortunately, I want to say no. I haven't. There are times that I have felt uncomfortable, and I think only 10-7 has brought that on. Like in a pre-10-7 world, would I have felt uncomfortable? Like last week, I was in Arizona at a pool party, and wearing my star and walking around. It kind of felt uncomfortable, like I was getting looks. So I kind of felt like I was walking on eggshells. Would we have felt that pre-10-7?
That's a good point. I think that's also speaking for a lot of us in the Jewish community too, because I'll be honest, 10-7 really sparked something in me too. And, now even when I'm outside and I'm wearing the Tel Aviv hat and I'm walking around, you do notice, hey, why is everyone staring at me? Or why am I getting certain looks from certain people? We don't have the privilege anymore of just kind of walking around and not giving a shit, quite frankly. Like you gotta pay attention. You gotta keep like in New York too.
Yeah.
You gotta keep your head on a swivel. You gotta be self-aware. You have to understand, okay, where am I at? How can I get to safety? And it's kind of sad that we all have to think this way at some point,
Yeah.
at a certain point, just for being Jewish, not for anything else.
Yeah. I hope you have some non-Jewish listeners for the pod. And if you don't, let's get some. But here's an example for you. My girlfriend had to change her name on Uber because her name sounds too Jewish. And so she felt uncomfortable getting in the car. And I know that that's not just her. That's, it might be a Jewish community-wide thing. in New York, especially for girls.
I've never heard that. That's terrible. Yeah, that's bad. And on top of that, women already have other problems they have to worry about anyway with Ubers and being out walking alone.
Yeah.
And then you just throw that on top. It's a sad thing. It's a sad world that you have to be concerned that your name sounds a certain way, so nothing will happen.
Yeah, and I can add to the point where my social media is private because of who I am, and also being a black male on top of that. I got the double whammy here. I I was called all kinds of names in my DMs, and I was like, oh wow, that's really hateful. I'm gonna go on private now. And you just, you take care. So
I'd
yeah,
rephrase that, Miles. I wouldn't call it double whammy. I'd call that double special.
yes, yes, yes. It's a double special. It is a huge part of who I am, and the super proud. To kind of add to the point earlier is like, there's a lot of in terms of, anti-Semitism, and then me being a black male. I've experienced both sides of I'm just gonna say it, racism. So, one thing I love though why we do this is just because I love this community. I love how we're able to talk about these things and bring awareness, like you talked about, to someone who may not understand.
So I have a question for you, Stephen, here. Do you think that people are just straight up hateful and anti-Semites, or do you think it's ignorance? Both.
Great question. It's a great question. It's obviously both. Like, we can't blanket statement anything. People, I don't even know where to start. It's all over the board. But it's unbelievable how you can not know anything and then take a side. Like, I don't want to see campus protesting and they don't know which river, which state. They don't know any of the events, or they deny the events. Like, let's talk in fact here. If you don't talk in fact, you might as well talk to a wall.
I think that's a big part of what's going on now. Unfortunately, it's like no one reads an article anymore. No one reads. They only read the headline. But I remember there was a headline after 10/7. It was like people died. No, people were murdered. They were not. They didn't die. They were killed. They were murdered. They were hunted. Stop with the blanket wording, and stop with, we don't want to, what's the word, villainize or whatever the word may be. No, you know what? This happened. Tell it how it happened. Stop blanketing it, because it's just not helping anybody. And I think you brought up a really good point.
Well, that's also some important nuance. So it's like, one, people don't read, and most of the younger generation is getting their news from TikTok, which we know is being pushed on by, certain nations, our information. And then the bias that we have in our media outlets. So like you mentioned, 4 Israelis dead. No. 4 Israelis murdered, slain.
And that word changes everything. It's not then how did they just end up?
When we heard the news about Shari Kafir and Ariel Bibas, I think the New York Times published an article that said 2 children died in Gaza captivity. No, they didn't.
And here's the sad part, is they damn well know they didn't. I mean, They were celebrating these people's deaths, parading. I mean, if that doesn't show you anything, I don't know if you actually can or want to be educated on the matter. And that's just a fact of it. Like, you think, parading babies' coffins around who didn't even get a chance to live, and parading the mother around, who, by the way, you knew was dead for how long? And you returned the wrong bodies. Like, you understand with that, that's okay, but I'm not trying to educate that. That's just
so I told you what I've been doing to get certain hats to people is I've just been cold calling, reaching out to people. The whole Bibas family story has been, I think, touching to all of Israel. We're all familiar with the orange ribbon. Been sending out the orange ribbon with the Tel Aviv hats recently. So I reached out to Yarden Bibas. He responded, so I sent him over 6 hats. So he's got them over there. And sorry, I forget what the name of his best friend is, who's still in captivity. Yarden told me when he opened up the box and saw there was more hats, he's like, first I cried, and then I put one aside for my best friend.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
Oh, man. Oh,
Touching.
Wow.
So proud of that.
Is there anything, one of my last questions is there anything in terms of, taking care of the victims and, or the victims' families? Is there anything anything more that you want to do going forward? Because that's such a touching story.
I'm tearing up over here.
Yeah, I'll do anything to contribute more to any cause over there, whatever it is. Let's just keep doing it, keep being good Jews, and do our part.
1,000%. That's awesome that it goes all to the Bibas family. And I think what our mission also is with this podcast is we also want to humanize and make people truly understand from the perspective of others that, if you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. It's not, it's not a zero. It's like you mess with one of us, you got all of us now. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do about it? And I think that's really special about the Jewish people. You know, no matter what it is, no matter who it entails, if it's with Israel, it has to do with Israel or being Jewish, we're there. Even other things we support too, we're there. We show up.
If you guys are familiar with the comedian Modi, who's fantastic, he likes to say one of the most important lines in Judaism is Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, which is, someone's going to slap me for getting this wrong, but it's something like, we are all one, which is so telling of who we are.
1,000%.
Well, Steven, thank you.
You bet, guys. It's been a pleasure, and I'm happy to come on anytime. We've got some cooking talking to do.
Yes, we do.
I got to send you guys those shirts.
Yes. And
absolutely.
thank you so much for your time. It means the world to come on and just hear your story, hear how, NEIGHBS got started, the Tel Aviv hat. It was all amazing. So thank you again.
You bet. And for your listeners, code Maccabee for anyone who wants to have 15% off.
Hear that, guys?
Maccabee.
Code Maccabee.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.